We're going to be talking about the original Star Trek cast and how they got their start in the golden age of television, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, it's a cool angle.
Yeah.
You know what's so fascinating about this book is it kind of makes this argument that the golden age of television was actually like a secret weapon
Right.
for Star Trek's success.
Yeah, how so? I mean, for people who aren't really familiar with that era, like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so we're talking about late 50s, early 60s, you know, when television was really exploding in popularity, and you had hundreds of shows all competing for viewers' attention.
Right.
And so actors had to be
Really good.
yeah. Like incredibly talented.
They couldn't just phone it in.
No, they couldn't just phone it, and they had to be versatile
Right.
to stand out.
So it wasn't just about looking good on camera.
Yeah.
These actors had to be able to handle anything, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they were juggling multiple roles, maybe even in a single week.
Wow.
Switching between genres, like mastering different accents.
Wow.
Delivering lines flawlessly under pressure.
It was like a real training ground for actors.
It was like boot camp for actors.
Yeah.
And before the Trek suggests that this experience was kind of like the perfect prep for Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know, because it prepared them for the challenges of creating sci-fi on a shoestring budget.
Right, because they were already used to working long hours and, you know, memorizing dialogue quickly and being adaptable.
Exactly.
Which is what you needed in Star Trek when you're making 26 episodes a season.
Yeah, they were masters of efficiency.
Yeah, so the book looks at each of the cast members and sort of their backstory. And starts with William Shatner.
Right.
Who played Captain Kirk, of course.
Of course.
And he was already like kind of a rising star in the early 60s.
Yeah, he had
the look.
Yeah, he had that leading man charisma, but his career had kind of hit a snag right before Star Trek.
Yeah, his previous show had been canceled.
Okay.
So he was available.
And this is where timing and luck, you know, the stars align.
But it's more than just being in the right place at the right time.
That's what the book argues, yeah.
So the book talks about how
it highlights his role in For the People.
For the People, yeah.
Which is a legal drama.
I've never heard of it.
Where he plays an assistant district attorney.
Oh, wow.
In New York City. And he brought this real intensity to the role, this kind of unwavering dedication to justice, even when it meant clashing with his superiors.
That sounds like Kirk.
Sounds familiar, right?
Yeah, bending the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
But was that just Shatner, or was he kind of already developing, like, acting chops?
I think that's where it gets really interesting, because if you look at his performance, it's not just the dialogue. He's using his physicality, his voice, even subtle facial expressions to convey that moral conviction. So he's already developing the tools that would make Kirk such a compelling character.
So even in this courtroom drama, he's giving us hints of Captain Kirk.
Exactly.
But the book also points out that Shatner wasn't just a one-note actor.
No, he wasn't.
He could do other stuff.
He had range. He played a morally conflicted doctor, grappling with difficult choices.
So this is getting into...
In an episode of Alcoa premiere called $1 Million Hospital.
So he could handle these ethical dilemmas that were so central to Star Trek.
And here's something else that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
He appeared in an episode of Bob Hope Presents the Chrysler Theater alongside George Takei.
No way. So they worked together before Star Trek.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's like this fun little foreshadowing of their future.
It's a small world.
Collaboration on the Enterprise.
Yeah, speaking of George Takei, his pre-Star Trek story is pretty compelling. I mean, he was actively fighting for better representation for Asian actors.
Yeah.
You know, even turning down roles that would perpetuate harmful stereotypes.
He was taking a stand, even though it meant risking his career in a very competitive industry.
Yeah, and that's a theme that resonates with Sulu's character, right?
Right.
He wasn't just a stereotypical sidekick.
Yeah.
He was a skilled helmsman. He was vital to the crew.
A vital member of the crew.
And the book suggests that Takei's commitment to, you know, breaking down barriers informed his portrayal of Sulu.
Absolutely. He brought a depth and dignity to the role that really helped to elevate the entire series. And it's important to note that this was during a time when Hollywood was still very much stuck in its old ways.
So both Shatner and Takei were already kind of like pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
In their own way.
They were.
Even before they got on the bridge of the Enterprise. Now let's talk about Leonard Nimoy.
Yes.
Spock.
The iconic Mr. Spock.
His path to Star Trek was a bit different.
Yes. Nimoy's early years were marked by struggle. Yeah, he was teaching acting, and taking on these small character roles, often in genres that you wouldn't typically associate with Spock.
Like what? Like Westerns?
Like Westerns.
Real.
Cowboys and saloons, not exactly the logical world of Vulcans.
Right, right.
But that's what makes his journey so fascinating, because he's honing his craft.
So even though he's playing cowboys and gangsters,
Yeah.
he's still developing
Yes.
the skills that will make Spock memorable.
Before the Trek highlights Nimoy's appearance in an episode of the Western series, The Tall Man, which I thought was really intriguing.
Why?
Because his character's death in that episode actually serves as this catalyst for the main character to give up his badge. It's a story about the consequences of violence, the moral weight of taking a life.
And that echoes some of the themes that we see in Star Trek.
Exactly.
Like the idea that even in this future world, there are still these ethical dilemmas, moral complexities.
And it's not just the thematic parallels. In The Tall Man, Nimoy has to convey this sense of inner turmoil, this conflict between his character's rough exterior and his underlying humanity.
So like Spock, right? He's got this conflict between logic and emotion.
Yes.
Vulcan stoicism, and then like underneath it, all this deep well of feeling.
It's amazing how these seemingly unrelated roles all contribute to creating the Spock we know and love.
It really underscores that experience, even in these unexpected genres,
Yes,
can shape an actor's performance.
and it's a testament to Nimoy's talent that he could seamlessly transition from playing a tough cowboy in one role to embodying a stoic Vulcan in another.
So he was already demonstrating this kind of versatility that would become
Absolutely.
a hallmark of the Star Trek cast.
Yes.
Now, before we move on to the other cast members, let's talk about DeForest Kelley, the man who brought Dr. McCoy to life. He had a long career before Star Trek, right?
Long career, yeah. Seasoned actor with a long list of credits, but often in small, sometimes even uncredited roles.
But the book argues that those roles were crucial to his development as an actor. What are some of the things that he did?
Well, he'd appeared in westerns, crime dramas, even submarine adventures.
Wow.
He seemed to have this knack for playing characters who were tough, but also compassionate, men of action who weren't afraid to show their emotions.
So basically McCoy,
Right.
gruff exterior,
Yeah.
but heart of gold.
Before the Trek highlights an episode of The Lone Ranger, where Kelley actually played a doctor.
Wow. Talk about foreshadowing.
I know, right?
It's like he was destined to play a doctor.
And what's interesting is that this episode wasn't just a typical Western shoot-'em-up. It dealt with some pretty complex themes, including the challenges of practicing medicine on the frontier.
Oh, wow. So he was already exploring these ethical dilemmas that become such a staple of Star Trek's medical storylines.
And it wasn't just his role in The Lone Ranger. Kelley appeared in a really diverse range of projects, including an episode of The Silent Service, which focused on the real-life stories of submarine crews during World War II.
So he was getting experience in all these
different genres, different historical periods, different types of characters.
Wow.
All of that contributed to his ability to bring depth and nuance to Dr. McCoy.
So it's like he was building up this toolbox.
Exactly.
And when it came time to play McCoy, he had everything he needed.
He had all the tools
to create this really memorable character.
And we'll see this pattern repeated with the other cast members as well. Each of them brought this wealth of experience and skill to Star Trek, and it really shaped the show in ways that we might not even realize.
Okay, that's a great place to pause. We've covered Shatner, Nimoy, Takei, and Kelley. We'll be back in a moment to delve into the pre-Star Trek careers of Grace Lee Whitney, James Doohan, Nichelle Nichols, and Walter Koenig.
Welcome back. So we're continuing our deep dive into the pre-Star Trek careers of the cast and how their experiences in the golden age of television really prepared them for, for the challenges of creating this groundbreaking show.
Yeah, we've already talked about Shatner, Nimoy, Takei, and Kelley, and they all had such fascinating journeys. Now let's turn our attention to Grace Lee Whitney, who played Yeoman Rand.
Yeah. Her story is particularly interesting to me because it kind of reflects the challenges and limitations that actresses faced during that time.
Yeah, and her time on Star Trek was cut short. But before the Trek, sheds light on her career before that. And
Yeah.
it talks about the roles she took on and the obstacles she encountered.
And what's really striking is that even though she often played, smaller roles, sometimes uncredited roles,
Right.
she was working consistently.
Wow.
The book mentions her appearances in shows like 77 Sunset Strip, Wagon Train, Batman,
Wow.
demonstrating her ability to adapt to different genres and work with, established stars.
So she was getting that experience on set,
Yeah.
even if she wasn't always the lead.
Exactly.
Do you think those early roles prepared her for Star Trek?
Well, think about the character of Yeoman Rand. She was efficient, professional, always ready to handle whatever came her way.
Yeah, she was the glue that held the crew together. She
Yeah.
was making sure that everything was running smoothly. So you think that those early roles, even the smaller ones, helped her develop those qualities?
I think so, yeah. Working on those fast-paced productions, often with limited rehearsal time,
Right.
required actors to be, adaptable, reliable, able to take direction quickly.
Yeah.
And those were all essential skills for any actor on Star Trek, especially given the show's ambitious production schedule.
Yeah, and she was actually cast by Gene Roddenberry
Right.
in his pilot for Police Story, along with DeForest Kelley.
Along with DeForest Kelley, that's right. It shows that Roddenberry recognized her talent.
Yeah.
Early on and, saw something special in her. And, while her time on Star Trek was ultimately limited. Yeah.
I think her presence as Yeoman Rand left a lasting impact.
Yeah, she was a trailblazer in her own right.
Absolutely.
And her contributions to the show should not be overlooked.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about James Doohan. Scotty!
Scotty, the beloved Scotty, he was a veteran actor long before he donned a Starfleet uniform.
Yeah, before the Trek.
Yeah.
Details his early work in radio dramas, where he honed his voice acting skills and developed a knack for dialects.
That's right.
Which is interesting because Scotty's Scottish accent became one of his defining characteristics.
Right.
So you think those early radio experiences played a role in that?
I think they laid the groundwork for sure. In radio, you have to rely solely on your voice to convey character and emotion and setting.
Right.
So Doohan had to master different accents and dialects to bring those radio dramas to life.
So he was already a master of vocal performance.
He was.
Which is perfect for Scotty.
Perfect for Scotty.
Who's often communicating
through intercoms or,
technical jargon.
Technical jargon, exactly. Right. And beyond radio, Doohan had a wealth of experience in television.
Yes, he did.
He appeared in westerns like Bonanza, Gunsmoke, war dramas, combat.
Yeah, he was comfortable in a variety of genres.
So that makes sense considering the range of stories that Star Trek tackled.
Right.
You know what I mean?
From space battles to thought-provoking.
Social commentary. Yeah.
It covered a lot of ground.
And Doohan's experience in those diverse genres really kind of gave him the versatility to handle anything.
He could play the tough cowboy, the hardened soldier, the resourceful engineer with equal conviction.
He was a chameleon.
Which
is what you needed for Star Trek.
Exactly what Roddenberry needed for a show like this.
And let's not forget
that Doohan was also a veteran of World War II.
Oh, that's right.
He served in the Royal Canadian Artillery and even landed at Juno Beach on D-Day.
That's incredible. It is.
So his real-life experiences must have informed his portrayal of Scotty.
I'm sure they did, yeah.
Yeah.
Doohan brought this certain authenticity to the role, this sense of grit and determination that came from his own personal experiences. He knew what it was like to face danger, to make split-second decisions, to rely on his skills and training to survive.
Right.
And that really comes through in his portrayal of Scotty.
It adds a whole other layer to his performance.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura.
Yes.
Her story is one of breaking barriers and inspiring generations.
Absolutely. Nichols was a true trailblazer, and her impact on, popular culture is immeasurable. But before the Trek reminds us that she was also an incredibly talented performer with a rich background in music, dance, and stage acting.
That's right. Before Star Trek, she toured with Duke Ellington.
That's right.
Lionel Hampton.
Yep.
She appeared in the film version of Porgy and Bess, and she even starred in stage productions, including Shakespeare. I know, it's amazing.
So that's a far cry from the bridge of the Enterprise.
It is, but that diverse experience really shaped her as an actor in profound ways. Think about Uhura. She's poised, she's professional, she effortlessly commands attention.
Right.
And those are qualities that Nichols honed through years of performing on stage and in front of live audiences.
So she was used to the pressure of live performance.
Yeah.
She knew how to
project her voice, embodies her character with confidence and grace.
Yeah.
And her musical background also played a role. You know, she brought a certain rhythm and musicality to her delivery, which made her lines even more memorable.
She's almost conducting an orchestra with her words.
Yes.
Creating a symphony of communication on the Enterprise.
Exactly.
Now, let's not forget, she almost left Star Trek after the first season.
That's right.
It was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself who convinced her to stay.
That's an incredible story, recognizing the importance of her representation on television.
Powerful reminder of the impact she had.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Walter Koenig, who joined the cast in the second season as Chekhov. He brought a real youthful energy to the crew. What was his journey like before Star Trek?
Well, Koenig, like many of his fellow cast members, had a solid background in television. He had actually appeared in an episode of Gene Roddenberry's earlier series, The Lieutenant.
Oh, really?
Which likely played a role in his casting on Star Trek.
So Roddenberry was already familiar with his work.
That's right.
And saw something there. But what kind of roles was he playing before Star Trek?
Well, he had a range of roles in various genres, including medical dramas like Ben Casey, war-themed series like Combat, and even a recurring role in the crime drama Kane's 100. He was getting experience in different settings, working with different actors, really honing his craft.
It sounds like he was getting a taste of all the elements that would eventually come together in Star Trek.
Exactly. The action, the drama, the moral dilemmas.
Yeah.
It was all there.
Did anything specifically prepare him for the role of Chekhov?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of his roles before Star Trek involved playing characters who were, a bit younger, a bit more inexperienced.
Yeah.
He had this natural, youthful energy that translated well to the screen.
Right.
And that fits perfectly with Chekhov.
Yeah, the youngest member of the bridge crew.
Exactly.
He brought that sense of enthusiasm.
That sense of wonder to the role. Yeah. And, while his character might not have had the same level of complexity as some of the other characters, Koenig brought a certain charm and wit to Chekhov that made him a fan favorite.
Yeah, he was a valuable addition to the ensemble.
Absolutely. Rounding out that crew dynamic, and adding a fresh perspective.
So as we look back on the pre-Star Trek careers of these actors, it's clear they were more than just a collection of talented individuals. They were seasoned professionals.
Absolutely.
Each bringing this wealth of experience and skill to the table.
And I think that's one of the key takeaways from Before the Trek. The success of Star Trek wasn't just about Gene Roddenberry's vision or the, groundbreaking storylines.
Right.
It was also about the actors who brought those stories to life. They were the heart and soul of the show, and their experiences in the golden age of television played this crucial role in shaping its enduring legacy.
And they were able to handle, the demands of a really fast-paced production schedule.
Yeah.
To embody complex characters and create this sense of camaraderie that resonated with audiences.
Yeah, it really resonated. And as we'll see in the final part of our deep dive, this spirit of collaboration and creative risk-taking was something that they'd cultivated long before they ever donned their Starfleet uniforms.
Right.
Their individual journeys, though seemingly disparate, converged to create something truly extraordinary.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Before the Trek. We've been talking about how the original Star Trek cast, they cut their teeth in the golden age of television.
Right.
And how those experiences prepared them for the challenges of creating, a truly groundbreaking series.
Yeah. And what I found really fascinating in Before the Trek was how that demanding environment actually fostered this spirit of collaboration and creative risk-taking that was so essential to Star Trek's success.
Yeah, we've seen how their individual experiences contributed to, their iconic roles. But how did that prepare them to work as a cohesive unit, especially under the pressure of a weekly sci-fi show?
Well, you got to think about the golden age of television. It was like a breeding ground for these ensemble casts. Shows like Gunsmoke, Perry Mason, Wagon Train, they all featured these recurring characters who interacted in complex ways.
So they were already used to working as part of a team.
Exactly.
Bouncing off of each other, creating that believable dynamic.
And they often had to do this with very little rehearsal time.
Wow.
Relying on their instincts and their ability to read their fellow actors.
So it was like a constant improv session, but with higher stakes.
Exactly. And those skills were essential for Star Trek, which relied so heavily on that interplay between the characters.
Yeah, think about Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Yeah, it's electric.
They're constantly challenging each other.
Right.
Playing off of each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly.
And it feels so natural.
Right.
So believable.
And I think that's because these actors had honed those skills through years of working in these ensemble casts. They knew how to listen, how to react, how to build on each other's performances.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Even though they're exploring this uncharted territory with Star Trek.
Exactly. And it's not just the main trio either.
Right.
The entire cast had this chemistry that was just palpable. You know, they supported each other, they pushed each other, and they created this sense of family that really resonated with audiences.
And it's that sense of family, of a crew that's united against all odds, that really makes Star Trek so enduring.
I agree.
And it seems like that's what Before the Trek is arguing, that camaraderie was forged in the golden age of television.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a crucible that tested their talent, their resilience, and their ability to work together.
Right.
And those who survived that crucible, well, they were ready for anything.
They were ready to boldly go where no one had gone before.
Exactly.
And they did it with style, with intelligence, and with a sense of heart that continues to inspire us today.
Absolutely.
So, we're wrapping up our exploration of Before the Trek.
Yeah.
And I'm left with this even deeper appreciation for these incredible actors who brought Star Trek to life.
Mm-hmm.
They were more than just performers. They were pioneers, shaping the landscape of science fiction.
And their stories remind us that even the most groundbreaking achievement are built on, a foundation of hard work, dedication, and a willingness to embrace the unknown.
So next time you watch Star Trek, take a moment to think about the incredible talent of the cast and all those unique experiences that shaped those iconic performances.
Absolutely.
You might even be inspired to check out some of their pre-Star Trek work. I'll recommend it.
Until then, live long and prosper.